Good evening, you're watching Eswatini TV News Bulletin at 8, read to you by Notsile Sitole alongside Zamanzi Manze. First, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. His Majesty King Mswati III continues to lead the nation in dancing the Little Ingwala at Ngabezweni royal residence, while Her Majesty the Queen Mother continued to lead regiments in dancing Ingwala at Unsanctioned royal residence. His Majesty's government has introduced a national curfew from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. with immediate effect. And now the news in detail. His Majesty King Mswati III continued to lead the nation in dancing the Little Ingwala at Ngabezweni royal residence. His Majesty was joined by Makhosikati, Bantwabenkosi and regiments on his second day at Ngabezweni.
When the books of history are opened, Eswatini will stand out as a nation that embraced its culture and traditions in good and bad times. With the COVID-19 aggression holding the whole world to ransom, the country has not been spared from the brunt of the pandemic, and life is not the same for Mswati. But the Ingwala ceremony is injecting a sense of unity in turbulent times as their majesties continue to lead the nation as Eswatini celebrates her most sacred ceremony. This is an opportunity for the nation to band together, united by an assurance that it stands on the brink of victory because Mswati are a nation that is not easily moved. His Majesty King Mswati III led regiments on his second day of dancing at Ngabezweni royal residence. His Majesty the King was joined by Makhosikati and their Royal Highnesses Bantwabenkosi. On the news, I am Sandila Makanya reporting from Ngabezweni royal residence.
The nation continued to dance the Little Ingwala successfully on day 4 at Unsanctioned royal residence. Regiments are led by Her Majesty the Queen Mother.
The nation continues to dance the Little Ingwala at Unsanctioned royal residence with enthusiasm. Her Majesty the Queen Mother is still leading regiments in song. Also present to dance the Little Ingwala at Unsanctioned royal residence were Makhosikati to His Majesty, their Royal Highnesses the Princes and Princesses, and Bokoko Balondolozi. Normally, when the Little Ingwala commences at Unsanctioned royal residence, regiments are usually led by their majesties, and then after a few days, His Majesty King Mswati III then proceeded to Ngabezweni royal residence as His Majesty is currently there. On the news, I'm Polile Mazia with Tabiso Dlamini at Unsanctioned royal residence.
War unto those who will instigate instability in the country by calling unsanctioned gatherings. Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says government has learned that some people are plotting gatherings aimed at disturbing the Ingwala ceremony. Masuku said this during a press briefing in Cabinet.
The Ingwala ceremony has commenced and the Mswati are already in song with their Majesties in this annual event, which is not only joined by Mswati but also tourists who have fallen in love with it. Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says it has reached government's attention that some anarchists are planning to host unsanctioned gatherings over the Christmas period. Masuku says this is solely to disturb the ongoing Ingwala ceremony. He says government will not hesitate to take decisive action against them.
I remind those agitators that no one has a right to summon citizens to meetings and huge gatherings at this time of our sacred Ingwala celebrations. It is important to send a strong warning that we will not hesitate to take swift action against anarchists intent on disturbing the cultural festivities and national peace and stability.
Masuku says government will not be alone in this, as a Mswati will also not take kindly to anarchists disturbing the Ingwala ceremony. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Mbabane.
Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says restaurants will no longer sell alcoholic beverages after 7 p.m. Night vigils and crossover parties are banned, and non-essential traveling after 11 p.m. until 4 a.m. is restricted in the country. Masuku says this comes into immediate effect and has cited a surge in COVID-19 cases as a reason for this.
From these statistics, it has become quite clear that traveling and gatherings are the leading drivers of COVID-19 in the country. This has therefore necessitated Cabinet to take a decision to restrict traveling and control gatherings during the festive season. Cabinet has therefore effected Regulation 52 of the Disaster Management Act, Coronavirus COVID-19 Regulations 2020, and approved amendment of Regulation 43 in order to ensure minimal exposure of a Mswati during the busy festive season. The amended regulations shall come into effect immediately and remain in force until 6th January 2021. They include the following restrictions. A person shall not consume liquor at a gathering, including a family gathering of more than 20 people. A gathering shall not take place after 8 p.m. Night virtues and crossover events or parties are prohibited. Non-essential traveling between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. is prohibited. A restaurant or food outlet operator shall not sell or serve liquor to diners after 7 p.m. Festive season sports tournaments are prohibited. A person who intends to hold a gathering in terms of the regulations shall at least 7 days before the intended gathering lodge an application with the Ministry of Home Affairs Regional Office. The application shall be in the prescribed form and shall be accompanied by a letter of consent from a chief or chief's council if the event is to be held on Eswatini land. The Regional Disaster management agencies structures shall inspect the venue where such a gathering will be held and make a recommendation on issuing the permit to the Ministry of Home Affairs officials. The Ministry of Home Affairs shall then issue a permit in consultation with the regional administrator. The decision on the application shall be communicated to the applicant 5 days after receipt of the application.
Eswatini National Provident Fund Chief Executive Officer Prince Lonkokelo says from January next year, the fund's savings will increase from 290 emalangeni to 300 emalangeni. The prince said this during a gathering with members of the media in the country.
Increase in Eswatini National Provident Fund contribution is part of many new changes that the fund will introduce next year. Eswatini National Provident Fund Chief Executive Officer Prince Longokelo says by these changes the fund strives to offer high standard services which will enable employees to receive in contacts whenever employers have deposited contributions.
We encourage members of the fund to check their pay slips to see if the correct deductions have been effected from their salaries. From January 2021, every employee earning 3,100 or more should have 155 deducted from their salaries as the ANPF statutory contributions, with the employer also contributing the same amount. Those earning below 3,100 will have 5% deducted from their monthly gross salaries, and the employer is also expected to contribute a similar amount. We also encourage our members, starting with our esteemed media practitioners, of course, to furnish all cell phone numbers to their employers so that we can update them directly when contributions are uploaded on their system. Employers are to then send these through the Excel NPF 200 form every month. Please note that
the prince says the fund has invested about 60% of the money as means to generate more. He says the investments are done under the guidance of government. He assured the fund's clients that their money were in good hands. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla Mbabane.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security has received the keys to the Occupational Health Services facility in Tlhatukulu from the Global Fund, following that today marks the end of the funding of the facility agreement by the Global Fund. The ministry has now taken full responsibility to ensure that the occupational health facility continues to function. This was said by the Undersecretary for the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Anthony Masilela, who was representing the Principal Secretary.
There are more than 11,000 Eswatini ex-miners who are working in South African mines that have benefited from the two facilities, which are at Tlhatukulu Government Hospital, RFM Hospital in Manzini. The Minister of Labour and Social Security Principal Secretary Thulani Mkhalipi says health facilities like this one are very important in the country, so government will ensure that they don't shut down.
The services that were provided here are still continuing. We want to take this opportunity to thank all the partners that we have been working with, particularly the ex-miners themselves and the current mine workers themselves, and the staff that has been working in this facility, and our host, of course, you know, the Nazarene mission. To thank them for understanding whilst we're working on modalities as to how we can transition from the global funding into a new funding model. Of course, there are problems, but we want to assure everyone that, particularly the beneficiaries, that the facilities will not close.
RFM Hospital Chief Executive Officer Dr. Ben Simelane appreciates the effort by government to keep workers' jobs despite the funding by Global Fund coming into an end. He says this was pleasing.
Uhulumende wende konke lokusemandleni lokuthi lolu sito loluthola labantu laba basetumayini luchubeke lungeme nje siyakubonga lokho.
Ex-miners organizations representative Robert Ngwenya also applauded government for keeping the facilities working despite the loss of the fund. He says ex-miners are sickly, so these facilities help them when it comes to medical assistance.
Usitile Global Fund wasinika labangasinakakele manesi wabaphatha kahle nemanesi asiphethe kahle kakhulu nakhaya.
In July 2019, a South African court ruled that South Africans' mines should set up a 5 billion Malangen fund, which will compensate about 500,000 ex-miners in South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique, as well as Botswana. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla Manzini.
721 students from the Southern African University graduated today. The university's acting Vice-Chancellor Dr. Faithimlo Tamgometulu says this number includes graduates who have completed their programs in their 3 faculties, education, nursing, as well as theology. This year's ceremony was held virtually.
The graduation ceremony was the 11th ceremony to take part in the institution. The acting Vice-Chancellor Dr. Faithimlo Tamgometulu congratulated the graduates and says this period was very difficult because of the difficult circumstances of learning caused by COVID-19. She says they have also noticed that students need to be educated about the business sector.
We note with concern that our students need to be skilled with business entrepreneurship skills. It is within our plans to ensure that we offer a business entrepreneurship. As we offer a business entrepreneurship program, we also equip students across the programs on business skills. It gives me pleasure today to present 721 graduates who have completed their programs in our 3 faculties. I would like to congratulate these graduates for this milestone achievement. We trust that as we send them out to the world, they will continue to serve as our ambassadors. The challenges presented by the pandemic in terms of their learning has been a learning curve.
Eswatini Revenue Authority Commissioner General Tumsan Masilela applauded students for doing well and completing their studies during this difficult year of COVID-19 pandemic.
You have labored through the years to get here, and I congratulate you on this achievement. It is even made sweeter by the fact that you did it under these very challenging conditions of COVID-19, where attending classes was a serious challenge. I am aware of the efforts put by the many stakeholders, who include the Ministry of Health, who kept advising on measures we need to take to guard against contracting the virus.
The 11 graduates of the Southern Nazarene University were educated through virtual learning. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla Babane.
The Chief Immigration Officer, Majesty Simelane, says it is important for Mswati to be reminded that migrants are important as everyone else, as they also contribute to improving development in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Simelane was speaking on the importance of the International Migrants Day, which is commemorated by different countries around the world.
Every year on the 18th of December, countries around the world commemorate the International Migrants Day, which aims to protect rights and dignity of migrants. The Chief Immigration Officer, Majesty Simelane, says people in the kingdom should be made aware of how important migrants are, as they also positively contribute and enhance sustainable development. Simelane says migrants bring various skills and present new opportunities which help in improving development in the country.
Immigration angeke uze uyimise mawungafuna kumisa wona ngafana ekuzama kuvimba umfula ngetandla ngoba abantu vele kula engadini yabo lokuhamba nangekhathi event.
Migration will also be there and cannot be stopped. It's only people who come in and go out in the kingdom, but Mswati too are migrants in other countries. Migrants perform jobs that are critical to infrastructure operations, so it's important to celebrate their contribution.
Kuze kwekuthi live lukhona ukuzuza kulabantu labaqhamuka ngaphandle. Labaningi bakhona akusibo nje abantu lababonze ngasithebeni. Labanye bethu abaphethe emakhono lathite lebekangekho even. Labanye bethu abaphethe lwadi live lelingenalo.
Research from the United Nations in 2019 shows that the number of international migrants reached an estimated number of 272 million people, with the largest number of international migrants living in the USA. For Eswatini TV News, Temalangen Dlamini with Musim Konda, Mbabane.
Government has gazetted a preservation order for close to 50 items, which include 7 cars and money amounting to 12,000 emalangeni, as per prayers made by the Crown in its matter against Makhosazana Mkhatshwa. This now gives the state the authority to hold on to this property pending institution of a forfeiture application in a matter where Makhosazana is suspected to have defrauded her employer over 3 million emalangeni in a period of about 19 months at Sipofaneni. Makhosazana was arrested for the contravention of the Prevention of Organized Crimes Act.
Government has issued a gazette making known a preservation order in terms of the Prevention of Organized Crimes Act for property believed to belong to Makhosazana Mkhatshwa. The property, which is now in the hands of the state, includes 7 vehicles, 2 trailers, 38 household items, and over 12,000 emalangeni, which is in 2 bank accounts. The vehicles include 1 truck, 6 cars, 1 trailer mobile freezer, and 1 trailer mobile kitchen. The household items include sofas, beds, fridges, gazebo, stoves, and a sound bar, among other items. The court ruled that no one should tamper with the items pending the state's forfeiture application in the matter. The items were preserved after Makhosazana was suspected of defrauding her employer over 3 million emalangeni. It is suspected that Makhosazana transferred the money into her bank account from May 2019 to November this year. It is alleged that the money was said to be paying electricity, security, paint, and telephone bills, among others. Makhosazana is suspected to have used the proceeds of crime to open a restaurant and a saloon. She is also suspected to have bought land with the money. Her husband is said to be one of the people to testify to this effect. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Mbabane.
The Eswatini Environmental Authority says Mswati spend over 1 billion emalangeni per year in South Africa when visiting that country. Now that President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced the closing of some beaches in the neighboring country, the Eswatini Tourism Authority, ETA, says this is a good opportunity for Mswati to practice domestic tourism and boost the local economy. This has been said by the ETA marketing manager, Siboniso Madlopa.
Said that one man's loss is another's gain. This may prove to be true to Eswatini, as the Republic of South Africa has announced a closing of some beaches in KwaZulu-Natal as well as the Eastern Cape, among other places, and Eswatini is looking to maximize on this. Marketing manager at the Eswatini Tourism Authority, Siboniso Madlopa, says Mswati spend a lot of money touring the neighboring country annually, and it might be time to now spend it locally.
This is an opportunity for us as Mswati to go out there and find out what these places can offer and really give them an opportunity to grow from this. So I believe that as we are going to be visiting the country at large, we're going to enjoy the experience that the country has to offer and actually plow back towards to the economy that will sustain and create jobs. You will recall that Mswati, when they go just across the border, they spend over 1 billion emalangeni per annum. So if we can just spend half of that money in the country, it can really help to even improve these places that we want to visit and be at the level where they can offer these exciting activities. So we have all the water activities in Mswati that they can enjoy within the kingdom, and we are saying as they do enjoy those, we are asking all Mswati to adhere to all the COVID-19 regulations.
Matlopa says COVID-19 has affected the whole world. The local economy has not been spared, and it needs the necessary cash injection from tourists. The Kingdom of Eswatini has been given the thumbs up by Forbes magazine as well as Lonely Planet for being an ideal tourist destination. This beauty which the kingdom has to offer awaits both Mswati and foreign nationals. For Eswatini TV News, Chamgosi Mavimbela, Babane.
A very good evening once again. Now we'll move on to our sports news. The Russian Boxing Federation have passed their condolences to the Kingdom of Eswatini following the passing on of His Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Ambrose Mandvulo Dlamini. The federation expressed their condolences in a press statement sent to their counterparts in the country, the Eswatini Boxing Association.
The Russian Boxing Federation has passed their condolences to the Kingdom of Eswatini following the passing on of His Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Ambrose Mandvulo Dlamini. Through a press statement that the Russian Federation sent to their counterpart of the local boxing association, the federation explained Prime Minister Dlamini as a great leader that sincerely dedicated much of his time to the development of Eswatini and its economy, defending human rights and helping disadvantaged social groups. The Federation is confident that the great work done by Prime Minister Mandvulo Dlamini will be continued and his legacy will be remembered. Prime Minister Ambrose Mandvulo Dlamini will be laid to rest on the 26th of December this year. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a relook at our top stories. His Majesty King Mswati III continues to lead the nation in dancing the litter in Gwala at Ngabezweni royal residence. While Her Majesty the Queen Mother continued to lead regiments in dancing in Gwala at Lutsitsini royal residence. His Majesty's government has introduced a national curfew from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. with immediate effect. And with that, we've come to the end of our bulletin for tonight. Up next is the weather update from myself and the team here at Eswatini TV. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.
Everywhere you go, MTN.